This time on 818 Custom Garage, it's Spider 9 axle time. These Super Track Spider 9s, oh man, they're so sweet looking. We're going to open them up, check them out. We're going to compare them to the Super 8s and see which we think is better. Bang! Look at it. It's time for some Spider 9. Man, these Spider Tracks axles, these look sweet. So, we're going to do a quick comparison of some Super 8s and some Spider 9s. But let's open these up. Oh, man. First off, come in a sweet box. It's nice. Packaged well. Oh, man, look at that rear. Look at the machining on that. So nice. So nice. I mean, they are massive in the center. I think that'll be okay. Yeah. Look at the scale brakes. Now, they're not functional, but man, do they look cool. You could actually run it without them if you wanted to. You could take the caliper off. And but from what I'm looking at, it looks like they've got a real retaining hub, similar to a real 9-inch axle. This thing is so cool looking. I really dig what they've done with it. And it comes with hardware and stuff, so that's cool. Let's look at this front one. Oh man, look at that. Look at the steering on that. It's so smooth too. Man, it's just like a real Ram. I mean, it looks so cool. This could be pretty awesome. Look how like up high and super close it is to the axle. That's going to really get the steering out of the way in the front. Wow, I dig that. These knuckles look scale. Like, these are beefy. Looks like it's got a much bigger U-joint in there, probably bigger bearing and everything. This thing is so sweet. Wow. This is big. I mean, it's just massive in the center. It looks super, super bulky, strong. Man, I got to get some of these off. We got to do this. I got to take this thing off because it looks like they do. Wow, that is so cool. So we don't lose everything. Look at the retainer for the bearing. It is like a real 9-inch. That is so cool. If you've never done any, real automotive side stuff, this is how, you've got your whole axle slides in and everything, just similar to this in a way. And you've got this whole bearing retainer, especially like on a rear 9-inch axle and stuff. So that's the same way. I really dig that retaining system. Probably overkill, right, for what we're doing, but super scale. And I just dig how awesome that looks. Wow. That is so sweet. So you can pull all this apart and this bearing won't come out anymore. That was always the thing. Like if you pulled everything off, sometimes the bearings weren't like super tight in there. You always had to throw a nut on the end of the axle to like make sure you didn't lose it or something. But man, this is so sweet. These are really nice. So let's look at a comparison. I'm gonna pull out these. These are a set of injection molded version. Same thing. Let's look at, they are supposed to be a millimeter wider. Look at the center. Wow. I mean, way more bulk. It's got the built-in riser on this one. These do not come with a riser, so you have to, just like stock, you screw it on. But this has that built-in riser. Super cool. I mean, it is full double shear. Double shear. Look at this. Double shear mount for both shock and links. You do not get that. You get the double shear on the links, but never on the shocks, right? So now you've got double shear mounting. that is like scale for sure, and way stronger, right? You look at that, I mean, housings themselves look pretty decent. You can tell, let's look here, the mounting positions are pretty close. I feel like the links are in a little bit closer than they were, for sure. Yeah, the links are in a little bit further, so they're not as wide out. And then, we're just eyeballing this stuff, right, guys? And same with the shocks. Both the shocks and the links are in a little bit further. So that was always some of the complaints about the Super 8s, was that they widened everything out. I like it, especially on certain chassis and stuff. But this makes it more compatible to a lot of different chassis. Now this will change, because when you start moving, where they're located, you are changing, your suspension geometry slightly. So this will be closer to using, a lot of the axles out there now are using like the stock link geometry and all that other stuff, whereas they weren't. But I dig it. I liked it. So I think it's pretty cool. This thing's super built. I mean, it looks, they got bigger, I think, bigger bearing in the back probably too, most likely. I can pop that off, but man, I love it. That looks good. So let's look at these front axles, right? Spider 9 comes with the servo mount. It bolts on, kind of two-piece design, it looks like. Top bolts on, and then the link mount bolts on too. And it's got four mounting screws holding it on. So that looks pretty good. Similar design to their Tremor servo mount. My only concern would be on some of the chassis out there. They do notch the top, but it could be a little wide. Most likely, probably pretty wide. When you compare that to like the Mofo mount and some of the others out there. Well, I feel like the Mofo mount's probably the narrowest out there. Like, and he doesn't have the whole, you don't have the whole top section too. So, so that could be a drawback for some people, depending on what you're building. So think about that. Because this, you can use any mount you want. This, I think you're stuck using their, I'm pretty sure you're stuck using their mount. So let's see, steering. Yeah, I mean, look at that steering. I mean, it just gets it in so close and so tight. That's probably really, I'm thinking that's probably one of the biggest benefits to these axles, right? The knuckle, love it. I mean, definitely got a bigger bearing. It's a bigger bearing in there. I bet you anything this is, are these 2.5? 2.5. So it's like a TRX 4M. So I bet it's got a TRX 4M size bearing in there. Most likely larger 2.5 mil nut. So like you could use a nut for a TRX 4M on this, I would assume. Let's see, what else? Man, I'm really digging on these things. I love the scale look. They are impressive. One of the drawbacks that I've heard some people say is, so the mounting locations for both the shock and the arm are not threaded. So you stick it's really meant to be a little bit more scale looking, where you put a bolt and a nut, because like when you're not going to have a big old bolt that threads into a section on your axle on a real off-road truck or race car or anything along those lines, right? You're going to run a nice bolt with a nice nut, some kind of locking nut usually. So just remember, when we go to put these in, and we have our awesome comp chassis sitting over here ready waiting, we're going to have to nut and bolt them. So just something to be aware of beforehand. I know some people are like, holding those nuts kind of a pain. It is. It can be a little more painful, but I don't know. I really don't ever have a problem. I either use like I start off with a good set of like tweezers and hold it, get it started, and then just grab a pair of needle nose and you're good to go. So, man, I really dig this. Okay, so let's start talking from a scale aspect. Man, these things are awesome. I think for a normal setup, you know, I think you're gonna be really good. I think drawbacks are when you get into the trying to build like a real performer, a big line killer, right? I think a positive for that is the steering setup. The negative would be maybe the servo mount. We'll see. I mean, we're going to get into the comp chassis, which is kind of narrow too, honestly. We can try these in, we've got some carbon chassis from, well, I've got the titanium chassis from Maz Designs. I've also got a Northwest chassis and Athos XL. Those are narrow like a stock chassis width, right? I've also got Grace's her Jeep build, Gladiator build that's on a Mofo carbon chassis. So we could try it on there, see how it fits in there. I'm curious on that. So the other drawback right now is adding weight. Where can we add weight, right? And you know me, I like to add weight as low as possible. You know, I've got these tiny terrains knuckles, which I love. They're very similar to the Hard Park low blow knuckles. I mean, kind of a copy, to be honest. They weigh the same. They're both 15 grams. But this is a nice, easy thing to do. You can use any knuckle from any SCX 24 on the Super 8s. They use an SCX 24 knuckle. So anything out there. It's nothing crazy, right? These use a specific knuckle, right? Tailored to the Spider 9 and maybe to the new Super 8 V2 that I keep hearing about. It is awesome. I love it. You got the bigger bearing, which is a huge plus. You got the bigger axles, humongous plus. Let's see. I really like the screw being, you know, in there. I know they do that on theirs too, on the Super 8, so that's good. Yeah, I think the only thing is going to be, for me, adding weight. So they're going to have, I would assume they're probably going to come out with a brass knuckle for these, which will help. It would be cool if they came out with like a narrower brass mount to add on here, possibly. Maybe a brass cover, you know, if they can get it so we can add some weight to the front of this thing, because like this is an injection molded one, and I guarantee it weighs more than this aluminum one. This is plastic, and it's got more weight than this thing. So I think from a performance aspect, yeah, servo mount and weight. So how can we add low, awesome weight and maybe a narrower servo mount possibly? So let's get these on this chassis and go see how. I want to go take it out and see how they work. I'm not going to show you the body for this thing yet. We're going to do that in a second video. But let's go give this thing a quick run on the outdoor track, although it's raining right now. So we might have to delay that a day. So I really like these. They are super, super sweet. There is a lot of material in here. Man, these are really, really sick. But one thing we're going to do, because these use the stock SCX 24 gears, I am going to re-gear it because they do a 216 overdrive in the front, stock in the rear. I am going back to what I always used to do. I really like the gearing, is I'm going to do stock 212 in the front, and I'm going to underdrive the rear with a 112. So we're going to go 212 up front, underdrive rear. That way I get it how I like it, because I have my, you know, this awesome comp chassis. Let's show you. It came out nice. Came out super clean, I think. The wiring's all nice. We've got a Python Pro, mini micro Komodo MR24 trans stock ratio gear set in there. Man, I think it came out clean. So let's get this axle on. These axles on there, bolted up, and come back, show you what that looks like, and get some wheels and tires on, and let's go test them out, see what we think of them. Okay, so I wanted to give you a little close-up of the inside of this thing. We're going to probably do a 2-part video where we're going to look at these specifically, and then we're going to go put them on our that awesome comp chassis that's sitting over there and see what it does, right? So these little guys, Spider tracks, Super 9 or Spider 9, Super 9s, Spider 9s. These are so sweet. Look at how much meat is in the center of this thing. I mean, it is crazy, right? I will say, well, there goes the gear because I'm replacing those, right? So let's look at the axle, right? So the retainers, you now have the 4 screws on there. So you got to take 4 more screws out compared to 2, right? You got to take the caliper off. It's really not that big a deal. But look at this axle. Super neck down for weight. Similar to like a real, not like race axle. But it's got the 2.5 millimeter at the end. The bearing doesn't look big. Pretty similar to the old bearing. The rear, not really an issue, I don't think. So, the cover, man, I mean, lots of meat on here. Lots of meat on here. Like if they made this out of brass for the front, oh man, you could get a little bit of weight up front. Brass covers, they'll make them. I'm sure they will. But yeah, it gives it a really good clamping area. So it's really nice. I mean, it is a meaty axle. Oh man, if you made these axles out of brass, you can have a whole brass axle out front. You can get some weight too up front. That might be something they might want to think about too, like a black brass axle. Oh, that'd be cool. Black brass axle up front, rear aluminum, get some bias going. Yeah, so super nice. We're going to change these gears, get them over, and then we are going to swap those gears. We'll show you the inside of that and how this all looks too. And then we'll do a part 2 where we will go get this comp chassis out there. Bang! Check out this front. So just like the rear, tons of meat in that center section. Super awesome. Looks good. Looks good. I mean, the steering is so smooth. I think this center ram piece is probably Delrin. I don't think that's aluminum. It looks like Delrin, which is awesome. That's the way to go. Use a lot of things to. It's almost like having a bearing. So let's see. Let's look at these knuckles, bearings and stuff. Big bearing. Similar, if I can hold it, neck down, axle shaft, big bearing. I would say that's TRX 4M, probably bearing, and axle setup. So, because 2.5. But man, this knuckle is nice. I mean, it's so cool looking. The detail's impressive. The scale brakes are so cool. I know they're thinking of they're going to come out with some Willwoods, and I forget the other brand. What would be cool though is if they would make the rotor in brass, because that's your hex, and then also make the caliper in brass, make the knuckle in brass. And if there's a way to add a little bit more meat to the knuckle anywhere, I mean, it's already got. It'd be cool if you could add it low, but I don't know. They're really trying to go for a cool scale look, which I dig, So it's so rad. I mean, these things are so cool. I mean, if you look at I don't know if it'll focus. If you look at the rotor and stuff, got a lot of glare. It's got a full drilled or slotted setup, so super cool. Super cool. So pumped. We are going to change the gears out. I already did the rear, right? Now we're going to put I took the gears from the back, and I'm going to stick those up front, and then I'll have a spare set of 216. Yeah, right. 216 overdrive. I don't know, whatever that says, if it'll focus. 212. Right? No. Or is this the back? 212 overdrive. 212 overdrive because 216 is stock. So, and then of course, we're using our Utter Butter. You know, I hadn't like really, never really used this stuff, you know, previously, and I got some from Mofo. Really like it. I really like it. So I'm going to have to, I've been putting it in all the diffs, all the axles and stuff like that. I think I'm going to get some bigger stuff because when I go to get, I got to re-gear some of the speed run trucks and stuff like that. I think I'm going to try this because it seems like it doesn't run as much. It really tends to hold really well. But I'm curious what it does with some super fast heavy duty stuff. That'll be my my test. So let's get this thing slammed together, and then let's see. Yeah, slam together, bolted on to that guy over there, and let's see where we're at. Bang! Check it out. Look at that. It's cool that they come with the nuts on there. They are pretty sweet. I don't know if the blue, I think the blue would go good with like a gunmetal or black. Doesn't totally go with the bronze, but these are not the wheels that are going to be with this comp chassis and with this whole system. So you notice there's no body. We're going to go do a part 2 to test this and show you how these Spider 9 axles work in the real world. But just wanted to show it to you with everything bolted up. Looks super nice, nut and bolt on there. It is super, super clean. Okay, one thing to know if you've got a comp chassis like this and you're using Spider 9s, most of the time the upper link arms, there are multiple, you know, hole locations. You usually go to like, I always go to the farthest back and towards the bottom to get as much caster as I can. The problem with that is now I have these crazy kids out here doing funny stuff. So the problem with that is with the link mount on here, it's in a different position than what they had with like their Tremor servo mount or a stock servo mount, and it creates massive caster gain at the top to where the servo actually hits this plastic mount. I mean, it's really angled back. So you need to move your upper arm to the furthest front hole. I mean, you can't see it down in there. So you can see all the way to the front. And then you'll be in a good position, and then you can adjust from there or do whatever you need. But man, this thing came together well. Everything fits really good. I would say getting this lower nut and bolt on the shock in the front is a little challenging because if you've got the link on and everything. So if you know what shock you're going to use or whatnot, I mean, I'm not saying I did it afterwards, so it can be done. It's just tighter, getting a needle nose in there and stuff to go hold that. So yeah. But other than that, everything fit and finish great. I really like them. Now, stay tuned for part 2 because we're going to take this bad boy out. We're going to put it on our either our mini crawler track, or we're trying to set up some time to go take out quite a few of our crawlers. Do a nice crawler morning with a bunch of the 24 scales and maybe some 10 scale stuff. So we got some videos coming on that. But really impressed with the quality of these Spider 9s. Now let's go see how they perform. Stay tuned for part 2. Comment, like, subscribe. Appreciate all the support. Part 2 is coming probably within a week. Stay tuned.